Good evening, everyone. My name is Al. Thank you for finding my channel, Kindred Souls of Brooklyn. And tonight, folks, as you can see, it's beginning to look a little bit like Christmas. I'm in the Celebration Water Tower Plaza, and I'm at Publix, and I'm going to do a really cool video on Entenmanns Cakes, something that I think is probably the most popular product ever to come out of Brooklyn in terms of a food product. So I'm going to do a little bit of a history of Entenmann's. I'm going to throw in some really cool commercials that, Whoopi Goldberg was in the commercial. I'm also going to talk about the famous Seinfeld episode Frogger that features the Elaine when she eats the wedding cake, and I'll show you that. So stay tuned for some cool facts and cool fun on Entenmann's, the best food product ever to come out of Brooklyn. Stand by. So first of all, folks, there's been a lot of famous things invented in Brooklyn. First of all, the teddy bear, which I've done a video on. So you can look back on my channel on that. And Nathan's Hot Dogs. I'm a big fan of Nathan's Hot Dogs. In fact, on 86th Street, when 86th Street Nathan's closed, and I was actually the last guy to buy a hot dog at the Nathan's. I have a video of that too. But I think, folks, the all-time winner of the best product ever to come out of Brooklyn, especially in terms of a food product, is Entenmann's. Now, first of all, folks, everyone's used to seeing this magnificent display that you see in all of the supermarkets around the United States. I mean, it's pretty much, when you come to a supermarket, you just assume you're going to see all kinds of great Entenmann's products. And I think in the course of my 54 years, I've probably tried almost all of them. So, folks, Entenmann's Donuts was actually started in 1898, and it was started by a German immigrant by the name of William Entenmann, and he came over from Germany, obviously, and he opened up his father was actually a baker. He opened up his store on 594 Rogers Avenue. Now, I always remember thinking of Rogers Avenue because my mom had grown up around there and around that spot in Brooklyn, and I remember her always talking about the trolley back then. So you think way back when to 1898, I mean, how different things were back in those days. But Mr. Entenmann opened up his bakery. In fact, what I'm going to do, I'm going to put up a picture of what it looks like today on 594 Rogers Avenue, and I'll show you a picture of how it looked back then, which is really cool. Obviously, being a really cool bakery, Mr. Entenmann and his family who were running it, they were very smart in terms of a lot of things. Now, one thing they realized early on was that they had to deliver the product. So I have an early picture here of Mr. Entenmann with the horse and the wagon, and they realized that delivery of the products was really, really important. And that's what separated them from a lot of other companies back in those days, like Ebinger's. And I'm going to throw up this picture now of Entenmann's horse and wagon, which is actually, as you can see, it's actually part of the logo on the product as well. The amazing, folks, thing is, here's something a lot of people don't realize what Entenmann really created. In fact, it wasn't Mr. Entenmann who created this. It was actually Martha, his son's wife, in 1951, who created this special idea that everybody kind of copied afterwards. So I'm going to show you this right now. So if you're looking at this Entenmann's rack right now and you're saying, okay, maybe I'm going to buy this nice pumpkin cake right over here. So back in the day, folks, you didn't have packaging. This is pretty much what they invented. Martha Entenmann invented the plastic wrapping that was put on the outside of the box. Prior to Martha Entenmann inventing this, you just had, and I'm going to show you a picture of this too, you just had like an Ebinger's box. It was just a regular box, and you couldn't tell what the cake looked like. So you just look at this as an example. If you didn't know what kind of cake you wanted, you could just come along. Look at this. If I don't know what kind of cake I want, I could just look at all these cakes here and say, okay, which one to me looks the best? But back in the day, you couldn't tell what the cake looked like. So I could say, hey, look at this chocolate fudge cake. That looks really good. I can tell the chocolate looks good on that. It looks fresh. So the ultimate invention, because once she invented that idea, the company really took off. And later on, it was sold. They kept the company up until 1978, but that was a tremendous innovation. I mean, who would have thought that simple innovation would be so important? But logically, it makes a lot of sense, because why would you want to buy something if you didn't know what it looked like? Maybe the chocolate was stuck to the box. You couldn't tell back in those days. You just had the regular brown box or whatever it was, and you had and it was kind of cool. They used to tape the twine around it. It looked kind of nice. You can carry it home. But in reality, you didn't really know if you were getting an old cake or not, or a messed up cake. Through the years, a lot of famous people have enjoyed Entenmann's cake. One of the biggest customers of Entenmann's cake was Frank Sinatra, and people couldn't decide what their favorite was. I knew what mine was, but Frank Sinatra, the chairman of the board, he knew what his favorite one was, and it was the crumb cake, like the French crumb cake. I'll show you a picture of that right now. I'll throw a picture of that up down there. And I guess Frank Sinatra had it his way, because he got a cake. He got someone who was delivered to his house every single week, and it was a standing order that came in consistently over the years. The only strange thing that Entenmann's is doing right now is they have this kind of hinge apparatus on the box. I mean, we're talking about them inventing the box, but now, I mean, used to be there was like a hinge that the cake box actually opened up, but now it's kind of a strange apparatus with this flip, and I don't think the cake stays longer, stays fresher as long. So that's kind of one of the problems. I think they have to go back to that. If you guys remember years ago, you'd open up the box on the sides, and then it would open up like kind of like the hood of a car would open up. But now you have to flip it open through here, and a lot of times it rips, or it just doesn't seem as sturdy. Up on the rack right here, I think it was more, it was a Christmas cake that they had last year, and one of the complaints that they had was that the cake, because you couldn't see which is funny because of the box, you couldn't see the entire cake in the box, and it was actually like a mold, it was like a tin tray on the inside of it. So in other words, you thought you were buying maybe a cake that was, I don't know, 8 ounces, but when you opened it up, I'll put a picture of this in here, it was actually an outline. It was actually a much smaller amount of product that you were getting for that. With those things notwithstanding, think about across America, the amount of coffee clatches you have after church. Think about Cub Scout meetings. Think about, now I know things are different now from when I grew up, but obviously things are more healthy now, but you think about growing up, you think about current events, you think about, how many, like I said, coffee clatches, or you think about bringing something to work, or someone's getting a new job or something like that, and you bring donuts to, it's just, where would we be without Entenmann's? I mean, so today Entenmann's is owned by a company called Bimbo. It's actually based out of like California. It's California, and they've got different places all around. They don't really make the cakes in Bayshore anymore. They closed that Bayshore plant that they had. Essentially, Mr. Entenmann moved out to Long Island. I didn't really notice till I researched it. His son had asthma, and after about a couple of years in Brooklyn, they moved out to Long Island, and for health reasons, his son was a little sickly, so they moved out there, and that's where they opened up the big factory, and things really took off from there. So they closed that factory now. So like I said, it was sold a bunch of times after 1978, after the company let it go, but currently it's owned by Bimbo Bakeries, which is just a huge company all across the United States, and they've kept the quality well, and they've kept a good head onto the company and the product, and it's still doing really well. To me, folks, when you think people have made it, there's different sayings when things are parodied or things are like put into popular culture, a product is really solid. So I want to set this up, and I'll show you the clip of the famous show. So does everyone pretty much out there have seen Seinfeld? Do you guys remember the famous Seinfeld episode? It was in the 9th season. It was called the Frogger episode, where George, he tries to keep that Frogger game because he never really did anything important in his life, and he has the high score. So in that episode, Elaine has at her office, they have a party almost every day, it seems like, where someone brings cake, and she's getting bored of it. But what happens is, so she kind of abstains from it and protests it, and so she starts missing the sugar rush at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And what happens is she goes into Mr. Peterman's office, and she gets this cake that was from Edward VIII that he had bought. Now, she doesn't realize this. The cake was worth $29,000, and she starts eating the cake, and then he realized, so she realized she eats the whole cake. What is she going to do? And basically, when she confronts Kramer and she says, hey, what can I do about this? He goes, oh, why don't you put an Entenmann's cake in there? So it's a funny clip. I hope you enjoy it. I'm going to put it in here right now.
Until a moment ago, I was convinced that I was on the receiving end of one of the oldest baker's grift in the books. The Entenmanns Shim Sham. Until I remembered the videotape surveillance system. Is the item still with you?
As far as I know.
Do you know what happens to a butter-based frosting after 6 decades in a poorly ventilated English basement? I have a feeling what you are about to go through is punishment enough.
Hey folks, there was this really good commercial with Whoopi Goldberg that I promised to show you. So here's the Whoopi Goldberg commercial right now on Entenmann's.
What's your favorite Entenmann's?
Oh, we love the rich frosted donuts.
Ooh, we love penny soft baked chocolate chip cookies.
Look, you guys talk this over. I'll just hang out. You know you gotta love them. Chocolatey and moist. Guys, come on. Cookies, donuts. It's about love.
You want a donut?
Cookies.
Yeah. This part makes me cry. Entenmann's. What's your favorite Entenmann's? Like I'm gonna tell them. If I said it was the ultimate crumb cake, they go flying off the shelf and there'd be none for me. So I'd never tell anybody what my favorite is. Ever. Entenmann's. What's your favorite?
Folks, I hope you enjoyed that commercial, and I hope you enjoyed the video on Entenmann's, made in Brooklyn. And you know, another quick fun fact, the blackout cake that Entenmann's has made for years and years and years was actually thought up in Brooklyn. It was called the blackout cake because during World War I, they used to send out the battleships after they were made in the Brooklyn Navy Yard, and they used to put blackout conditions in Brooklyn because they were worried about people maybe spying on them and letting the information out. So folks, I really hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, please drop me a line. If you didn't, please drop me a line. We have started a foundation for my son. We lost my son in August of 2019. It's called the Waffles Foundation, Saving Lives Through Music, one note at a time. We're giving out musical instruments to kids who can't afford them. Sadly, we lost my son. He was a great musician, and we just want to try to carry on his memory in a very positive way because we miss him so much every day. He was a wonderful person. He would give instruction to kids. He just got along so well with kids. So, folks, thank you for joining me, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care of yourself and stay safe. Love you guys. See you soon. Take care now. Bye-bye.